right, welcome back to another big hour here of the Steve Gruber Show. Let me get that right out of the way. Perfect. How you doing this morning? It's a free-for-all Friday, free speech, free-for-all Friday. We're fighting for you this day from Washington, D.C. Glad to have you back. I'll be here in the nation's capital for tomorrow's big parade, 250 years of the U.S. Army, and of course, all the things that'll go with that. Three big things this hour. Number one, you've got everything going on in California. It's Gavin Newsom versus Donald Trump in many ways. We'll talk about that. Number two, Israel has taken out the Iranian nuclear capabilities. A massive strike. Is it a knockout punch? Probably. We'll know more in the hours and days to come. And number three, it is Free for All Friday. And we're going to get right to the phone lines because we've got a lot of folks who've been very patient here. We're going to start with Gary in Florida. Gary, welcome to the program. Thank you for being patient.
Hi, Steve. We were talking about China and all the things that are going on with China. We know that they're an enemy. And, you know, some of the things that they've been doing as far as spying on us, they're putting stuff in our foods or putting these bugs or whatever they wanted to bring over. But they're constantly doing things to try to – my question is why would we send our food, our beef, our chicken, why would we buy pharmaceuticals, perishables from these people when we know they're our enemy?
And for people that don't understand this whole deal, we send whole chickens on ships to China. To China, then the chickens are cut up and sent back to us. That's just one example. That's what you're talking about, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're sending fentanyl and everything else over here to kill us, and we're eating the food and taking pills that they're manufacturing. Why?
Why? That's a fine question. I appreciate the phone call. I mean, who knows how they would adulterate the food? Am I saying they are? No, but I'm saying it's possible. I mean, once it's in their possession, they could do anything they wanted. Quite frankly, I don't know why we would trust such a thing. The pharmaceuticals, another thing. Look, we had dog food coming from China that was killing all of our dogs. Here, you remember those stories 4 or 5 years ago? Chinese dog food was killing pets all over America because it was filled with who knows what, just garbage. By the way, that's why I use Great Lakes Pet Food. GreatLakesPetFood.com. That's the only dog food I feed to my dogs, to my hair farmers. Made in Michigan. I trust them. GreatLakesPetFood.com. Nice segue there. All right, let's go to Calvin. Calvin is in South Carolina today. Calvin, how you doing?
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for taking my call.
Yes.
Thank God for Elise Stefanik.
Why do you say that?
You there?
Yep, go ahead.
Oh, because she had it on with Kathy Hochul yesterday at the House.
Oh, she did. Yeah, I saw that. And you know what? That's a really important story. You mentioned that, Calvin. But with everything going on, there are really important things happening that get missed because you've got people like Padilla, the senator from California, doing this whole performance and making a scene at Noam's deal. You've got what's going on in California, obviously very concerning you in Israel. So things like this. So real quick, tell the folks what happened.
Well, she was testifying, and she asked her about all these people in New York State that have been killed by illegals in the subway.
Right.
Lady burned in the subway, person taken in the backseat of a car and raped. And she asked them their names and did you know anything about it? And she said, no, not really. I don't remember. And she went on like that.
Yeah, because she doesn't remember. Because again, it's a money game. Calvin, here's the sad part of it. It's a money game because these hotels get paid millions. These charity groups, Catholic charities, Lutheran charities, Bethany Christian Services, they all get paid a pile of money to bring these people in. It's a business plan to take taxpayer dollars and deliver it to them, and we get screwed as taxpayers. Good call, Calvin. Greatly appreciate it. Really do. Because you are right on the money, my friend. Right on the money. Let's go to Barry. He's in Kentucky. Barry, how are you today?
Great. Thank you for taking my call. This thing was Trump and Musk. Hey, all this is just two rich guys with different opinions. Very smart guys, okay? And Trump has to do things politically where Elon doesn't have to do things. He come in, tore up Twitter, made it great again. So
Yeah.
you watch the MSNBC news and stuff; they're just blowing it totally out of proportion. And another thing, the land buying by China and stuff. The seller that owns the land that's selling it, they don't know who's buying it. They just know that
That's
a
right.
company representative here is buying it, and they're paying them like, let's say, $10-50 million for some land
That's
that
right.
they haven't been making any profit off of. So, hey, man, if you want to come and buy my 8 acres that I've got and pay me
And I'll tell you how
$50
this
million
works.
for it, I'll sell it to you.
Exactly. And here's how this works, Barry. Great call. Thank you for that. Let me explain to the folks. It's not even a company that shows up. Usually it's just an attorney. Hey, I've got an interested party. Here's an attorney, also being paid by the Chinese. He's being worked by a corporation of the Chinese or whomever, but he shows up and says, okay, I've got an offer for your property. Here it is. It's 10, 20, 50% above market value. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. And a guy who's starving as a farmer goes, I'll take the $5 million. I'll take the $10 million. I'm going to Florida. And that's exactly what happens. Barry is exactly right. Let's go to Mateen in Georgia. Mateen, welcome back. What's on your mind?
Hey, Steve, it's Martin, but I spelled Martin. Question
Right.
and a comment. First of all, I did switch over to Patriot Mobile, just to let you know, to support the cause.
There you go.
But first question is, did you finally receive my lawsuit against the Congress that I sent you? I sent it to you twice.
Yeah, I just saw that. I haven't had a chance to read through it, but yes, I saw that.
Okay,
So
I need
we're
to
working
help
on it.
getting traction on that so that I can take the brunt of it, but so that Trump doesn't have to be involved. But now the second
I
thing
appreciate that.
I've got to comment about, one thing I've got to comment about is, and what I don't understand, and I don't understand why they don't put me on their team, they still got a lot of people in key places, like in the Department of Defense, which I was part of for 20 years. I was in the intelligence business. They're still there. That were under Tapper and Milley. I don't know why they haven't removed or at least interrogated or indicted these people, and why they still have them on staff.
I agree, Martin.
I mean,
we need to clean house. We do. We need to clean house across many layers of government. I got to leave it there. We got to clean house across many layers of government. We do. It's hard to do. It takes time. It can't be done in 3 or 4 months. Oftentimes. Let's get to one more. Tim in Tennessee. Let's get you up. What's on your mind, Tim?
I love your show, brother. It's
Thank
about
you.
this land that China has been able to purchase. I get that they're not doing it openly, right? But isn't there a way, or has anybody tried any legislation or anything to get this land back from a communist country that hates us?
Yes.
And why are they buying the land where they're buying it? There has to be.
Well,
a
you know
reason.
why they're buying it, and you know where they're buying it, and you know why they're buying it, where they're buying it. And yes, South Dakota was the first state under Kristi Noem to say, China, you cannot come here and buy land in South Dakota. South Dakota's got their act together. So does North Dakota. Montana and Wyoming pretty close as well.
We are able to get the land back through some mechanism.
That's right. That's right. And in fact, we should make it just like every other country. I got to leave it there. Every other country that you cannot buy land in America. Free for All Friday. I'll be right back. We do it for you. We do this every day for you. The whole team does. Me, Ivy, Anthony, Brock, Sister Sarah, we do it for you. And we appreciate it. That's why we enjoy Free for All Friday so much. We're going to get another one in before I go to my next guest. George has been patient from the great state of Kentucky, and I wanted to get his voice heard here today. George, how are you?
I'm doing just fine, Steve. I just want to say God bless you for having the cojones to get on the TV and tell the American people the truth. I want to touch on 2 points real quick. I know that they're teaching all this woke crud in colleges, but when did everybody forget their history? I mean, we have been fighting the Palestinians or the radical Muslims, whatever you want, for over 1,000 years since the Crusades.
That's right.
That's number one. And number two is, where does anybody in this country get off telling Netanyahu that he can't defend his own country, which happens to be a sovereign nation? And he is
Agreed.
the equivalent of the president of Israel. I don't see where anybody in this country, especially when my father was a World War II guy who fought for freedom, and I'm a vet myself, I don't see where anybody has the right to where they can tell them what to do.
George,
And that's
amen
all I
and
gotta say.
amen. Thank you for the call. I greatly appreciate you, George. I do. Fired up and telling the truth. And that's what we do here. And we do it for people like George and everybody else. We do it for you every single day. All right, I got to shift gears a little bit. By the way, the phone lines will remain open, 877-310-9966, powered by Patriot Mobile. It's the Common Sense Hotline. It will be open for the rest of the day. We'll fit them in around the edges. My next guest, Allie Mary. She says that it's time. She's part of the American Parents Coalition. Time to deal with the YMCA. They want to go after the YMCA for Title IX violations. Allie, welcome to the program.
Hey, nice to be here.
I greatly appreciate you. All right, so the YMCA, which used to be the Young Men's Christian Association, boy, we're a long way from there. Title IX violations. Even in my home state of Michigan, you say. What's going on? What's your concern?
Yeah, so a few weeks ago, we noticed that there had been a handful of reports kind of popping up across the country about women and girls complaining of men in the locker room, boys on sports teams, kind of the same stuff we're seeing more broadly nationally. And so we decided to take a look at the YMCA guidance and policy from a national level and where this was all stemming from. Needless to say, we discovered that the Y has been captured by this ideology, much like many other organizations across the country. And we're providing resources and guidance and recommendations to their branches on how they can create, quote, gender inclusive summer camps and teams, et cetera, and all of this, of course, at the expense of women and young girls across the country.
Yeah, so let me read part of the letter for the folks so they know. The YMCA's policy, excuse me, of disfavoring and imperiling young girls and favoring and empowering those who choose to present as a gender other than their own is antithetical to the principles of federal civil rights law and gender equality. It is morally wrong and legally impermissible. The YMCA is a federally funded entity and is required, just like any other federally funded entity, to adhere to Title IX. Moreover, because the YMCA has recently hidden its policies from public view, federal oversight is even more crucial. It is a very well written letter to YMCA. What has the response been?
Thank you. We haven't heard back from the administration yet, but we just sent this in, of course, a day or two ago. But yes, once we discovered that this seemed to be something, widespread across the country, we sent the letter that you're referencing to the Department of Education, Housing and Urban Development, and Health and Human Services, because all of those entities are responsible for providing grants to the YMCA and similar organizations throughout the year. And the Y says publicly on their website that they operate more than $600 million in federal funds per year It's also important to note that they serve more than 4 million kids and teens across the country. So this is a significant amount of money coming from taxpayers with a significant influence on the next generation. And so our request of the administration was for them to look into the YMCA and how these funds are being used, because the president's executive order filed earlier this year explicitly said that no federal funding should be given to organizations and entities that are not in compliance with Title IX. And this is what we've seen is a direct violation to that.
So how much funding are we talking about here?
$600 million in government grants per year.
You know, the reason that I asked that, how many of these organizations are we paying endlessly? We're $36 trillion in debt. We continue to fund all these organizations endlessly. You know, the YMCA is nothing more than a gym. I say put them in the free market and good luck. I mean, they're not what they used to be. They're not at all what they were supposed to be. The Young Men's Christian Association is far afield from anything it was supposed to be. So why not cut them loose and tell them to survive in the free market? What do you say to that?
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, look, there were and are benefits to supporting opportunities for families and kids to have healthy lifestyles. They also provide childcare options in the summer when a lot of parents are still at work. So I do think there is an opportunity for there to be a meaningful partnership, but that doesn't mean that those partnerships are not vetted and, you know, have to go through a process every year, every few years to make sure that they are actually operating within the law. I mean, we're not even talking about the quote intent of a grant. We're talking about the law. And the law is that if I send my daughter to a basketball camp at the YMCA, I should not have to worry about her being in her locker room, changing her clothes next to a boy. I mean, it's very simple, and it's not just—
It's very simple. That's the law.
That is federal law. Yes.
That's right. Allie, I got to leave it right there.
So one thing—
greatly appreciate you being here
of course.
today.
One thing our organization does is we communicate this to parents. So if anyone has any questions, AmericanParentsCoalition.org, we've got a lot of resources.
Say it one more time.
AmericanParentsCoalition.org. We have resources there for parents who may want to talk to their local YMCA.
There you go. All right, let me read a quote from Donald Trump from yesterday afternoon, and then you make of it what you will. All right, I'm going to read a quote. I don't want to say imminent, but it looks like it's something that could very well happen. Trump was talking about an Israel attack on Iran's nuclear facilities, which happened early this morning, late last night. Look, it's very simple, not complicated. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, Trump said. Again, Trump said, I don't want to say imminent, but it looks like something like that could very well happen. It happened within a few hours of him saying that. Other than that, I want them to be successful. Trump continued, we'll help them be successful. We'll trade with them. We'll do whatever is necessary. Anyhow, within a short time of that, Israel unleashed a vicious attack on Iran's nuclear facilities, knocking them— I don't know if it's a knockout punch, but it's going to be close. It was vicious, and they knocked out and killed at least 3 of their top military leaders again. This part of the program brought to you by my good friends at Hillsdale College. Look, Hillsdale when you're binge watching on Netflix and so forth, are you really learning anything? I mean, it's fun. But if you want to learn something and see really high quality production about the Constitution, the founding fathers, Christianity in America, what it means, free enterprise and capitalism, you want to learn stuff. And these are so well done. There are more than 40 classes at Hillsdale College. So it's like watching a series on Netflix, only you come away smarter. It's not fiction, it's fact. Brought to you by the great folks at Hillsdale College. All you have to do is go to gruberforhillsdale.com. Ivy and I have been doing it. You can follow along with us when we're talking about the different classes. You say, hey, I took that one. Ivy and I love these because they are terrific. You got people like Larry Arnn, what a genius he is, and these other Victor David Hanson, and all these other brilliant minds that have come together at Hillsdale to say this is what freedom looks like. This is what liberty looks like. This is why it's done this way. Man, check it out. Gruberforhillsdale.com. Enroll. It's free. Absolutely free. Netflix isn't free. This is free. Gruberforhillsdale.com. Check it out. Gruberforhillsdale.com. When we come back, Congressman Tim Walberg will be with me, and we'll talk about this strike on Israel, plus the big, beautiful bill and everything else going on in Washington, where I sit today. That's right, I'm here. We're all here, and I'll be right back. All right, back to it now as we get through this. My next guest in Washington as well this morning, Congressman Tim Walberg from Michigan, is with me. And Congressman, you had the picnic at the White House last night. You were just telling me. Not everybody was invited, apparently. I did hear that some people had their invitations rescinded for not supporting the president. Whatever. But then you were out and you heard this. The report's the same as we did. Israel going in with a vicious attack on Iran's nuclear capabilities. As I mentioned before the break, I can't tell if it's a knockout punch, but it is devastating. At least three of their major military leaders dead today. Their capabilities greatly reduced. Look, it's not been a secret. You and I have talked about this many times. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. President Trump has said it. Benjamin Netanyahu clearly has said it, and they delivered just a hell of a punch. What do you make of it today?
Well, whenever Israel does something, they do it with clear planning. That's why October 7th was just so abnormal that happened without Israel being prepared for it or anybody. But last night, for them to do what they did, and the president of the United States to have our embassy people shelter in place and the non-essentials go home last week, indicated that there was something coming. And what we saw last night was shock and awe, for certain. Quickly it was said that the leadership of Iran was still okay, but we find out the three top leaders are gone from this earth. Others are injured. But also the sights and sounds that we saw on the screen indicating they were going for nuclear capabilities there as well. They weren't wasting their efforts. I'm sure it was very significant. The drones that followed up from Iran going to Israel were pretty much just just a statement to say we're pushing back on you guys. But it was nothing significant that Israel couldn't handle. What will be interesting is to find out any involvement or understanding from America and from our president. He quickly distanced himself from being a planner of the attack or involved in it, but I think that's done to make it very clear that Israel is making a statement. Now, if America follows on in support, which Iran has to accept as a reality,
Right.
if they push back, I think it says Israel has made this statement. Her allies will be there to support, and America, of course,
Yeah.
will be there.
So I wonder how long this has been in place. I mentioned this because as I sit here in Washington today, this was actually a plan B. I was supposed to be in Paris today, supposed to fly into Paris yesterday, stay through the weekend because the Iranian government in exile meets in Paris once a year for their annual conference, if you will. I was invited. I was going there to cover it. And a week ago, or just over, I got a call said, "Hey, we're postponing this event until later this year, probably September." As I'm processing this last, I'm thinking, well, gee, did they know that something was coming because they have, information coming from various sources? Did they know something was coming and they didn't want to convene their meeting in Paris because they might get targeted? How long have we known this is coming? I guess is my question here today.
Well, I couldn't tell you that because I don't know. But I do know last night at the White House at the annual picnic for members of Congress and their families with the president and Melania, it was the shortest speech I've heard from the president, I think, ever. He spoke to us, and I made mention to guests that I had with me that I had never heard him speak that short. He came down, did the rope line with people, but that indicated to me that something may have been
Something was
up.
happening. Yeah.
And ultimately, yes, we saw that something did happen.
Yeah, all right, we'll keep an eye on that. We don't know all the specifics. We'll learn that over the next few hours and days and weeks. But here's what I do know. Yesterday, the first Rescissions Act was passed through the House. You voted for it to cut, I think, $9.8 billion, something in that neighborhood. It'll cut $1 billion from the Corporation for Public Broadcast that funds NPR and PBS, which, by the way, I don't get money from the government to run this program, and they only get about 10 or 15%. You would think that they're getting unplugged altogether. That's just simply not true. They're losing about 10 to 15% of their funding, and they need to compete in the real world like everybody else. And look, I like programs like Nova. I'm all for it, but here's what I'm concerned about. 4 Republicans voted no on this. There were 6 at first, and it got down to 4, but Why would you vote against it? This is what they say is low-hanging fruit. How could you vote against this?
Well, you'd have to ask them, but I assume the reason is because of the constituencies they represent. These are members who are, for all intents and purposes, Republicans representing districts that Harris won. So they're in tenuous situations to do it. And Big Bird carries a lot of weight, I guess, with liberals. Um, and liberals don't believe that Big Bird is strong enough that the commercials, like you all have to do, would carry the day for public broadcasting. I think most of us looked at it and said, yeah, there are some good programs there, but for the most part, it's a liberal slant at the very least, and in some cases, very progressive. You're not hearing conservative programming. And so, why should the rest of us who support efforts that put at least fair and balanced broadcasting, why should we have to support with tax dollars Big Bird and others? So it was a tough vote for a few, but for most of us, it said, listen, we can weather the storm and explain that right now, when we're 3.7 trillion, $37 trillion in debt, it's time to look at what is essential for taxpayer support and what isn't. And when we're attempting to finally get the big, beautiful bill passed in the Senate, and they're getting weak-kneed, and hopefully the president will be talking some sense to them soon, we need to look at all areas so that this country rebounds economically and stands very secure. Um, and that's our main concern. And I'm glad we passed it yesterday. It was close, of course, but we passed it, and now
Yeah.
hope the Senate will do the same.
All right, last thing. You're leaving Washington today, and I'm coming in to follow this parade on Saturday, the 250th anniversary of the United States Army. A lot of concern about this No Kings protest being funded. By the way, we found the funding, a lot of it. It leads back to China. No surprise there. A lot of these things are not organic. These things in Los Angeles and elsewhere are not organic. What do you expect to see on Saturday? What should the response be to these people that conduct themselves in violent ways?
They ought to be treated as violent criminals. The law ought to be used on them. I mean, what we're seeing around the nation right now with the burning of private property and government property, attacking of law enforcement officers, this is not a peaceful protest. It can't be allowed. U.S. senators who violate the law and try to shut down secretaries like Christine Ohm from their speech ought to be treated as a lawbreaker. And so I think it's a time we stand up and say it isn't the conservative voice of this country causing the problem. It's the other side that can't accept the fact that the election was what it was. 77 million people said we want to move forward. And also, Steve, let me make it very clear. Some are going to try to say this is the president's birthday parade. No, it isn't. We are honoring the U.S. Army. That's 1 year
That's right.
older States of America and has served us well. That's what it's for. I had a first lieutenant in my office yesterday who came here to be involved. Just what it
And
is.
that's what it's for. God bless
Right.
America. All right, we're getting back to this. Ivy said, I missed this. The dumbest thing I've heard all week, right? So we're gonna round them up. We got three in a row here, 1, 2, and 3, Anthony. So I didn't tell you in the break, but here we go. And it's interesting when we're on the road. It'll be behind the scenes, inside baseball stuff. The communications, the technology is different, but it's remarkable technology that I can sit here, a few hundred miles away from the home studio, and it all goes through the home studio, and Anthony's still there, and it all just it's magic. It's just magic. Anyhow, there it is, and they just want to crack the whip on me. They treat me like a rented mule, ride me like one. Woo. Anyhow, the dumbest thing I've heard all week. Here's yet another white liberal melting down. She had to end a friendship with her lifelong best friend. Her lifelong best friend had to end the friendship. Why? Her best friend voted for Donald Trump. Her best friend voted for Donald Trump. Here it is.
Texted my best friend of 14 years. Literally half of my life. I'm 28. And I asked them who they voted for. They said Donald Trump. And they said, I'm assuming you voted the opposite. And I said, yes. And then my friend texted me and said, will you still be my friend? Half of my life, this person is my best friend.
Okay.
What a sissy.
What's that?
I said, what a sissy.
I mean, but I want to make one observation here. Halfway through, she says, my friend asked me, can we still be friends? Yeah. You know why? Because Trump voters are cool. They said, hey, can we still be friends? I mean, I don't have a hang up with the fact that you voted for an idiot like Kamala Harris. You're a moron. You voted for Kamala Harris, but I'm not bursting down in tears. Please. Anthony, do you have people like this in your friend group? Tell me you don't. Tell me you don't.
I got some liberal friends, but they're not that bad.
How bad are they? You can share with us. It's confession time with Steve.
They're pretty. I mean, they're pretty left, but also, I wouldn't say that they're a bunch of sissies.
Well, let me ask you this:
They
at
the very least, if can be my friend, being on opposite sides of
right. But let me ask you something. It's Friday night, right? It's Friday night. You're going to go out to the bar with your friend group. How many people in your friend group? 8, 10, 12, whatever it is, right?
Sure, yeah. 8.
Fair? Okay. You decide you're going to wear your bright red Make America Great Again hat, Anthony. Are they going with you or are they not going with you?
Oh, they're probably not going with me.
See, you can't have your opinion and be friends. You see what's wrong with that? You see?
Yeah, I do.
There's just something very wrong with that.
Yeah.
Either they're your friends or they're not. You see, my friend group, they have different opinions because they're entitled to be wrong. And I allow them that. I'm gracious that way. I say to my friends, and mostly brother Shane, I say, you're allowed to be wrong, Shane. And he understands. And my friends understand. Yeah. Anyhow, all right, let's get to the next. Anyhow, Anthony, put on the damn red hat. I'll tell you what, I'll give you the dark MAGA, the black hat that says Make America Great Again. Well, it doesn't have to be bright red.
No. Okay.
And we'll just test the theory. All right.
I actually have a picture of my girlfriend wearing that hat.
You do? My hat?
Yeah.
Good. I want to have that picture and hold it over her head whenever possible.
And she's a liberal.
Let's see here. I know. But you said she's marginally liberal.
Very,
She's not
yeah.
crazy. Yeah, marginally left. Anyhow, see, when we don't hate these people, we just try to convince them of see, and that's the way America's supposed to work. We convince them that our point of view, our argument is better for these reasons. We don't burst into my best friend for 14 years. Who does that?
Yeah, that's great. 28 years old.
Yeah, 28 years old and acts like a child. All right. Let's see here. Which one do I want to go with? I want to go with Governor Whitmer trying to reach young men who vote because the Democrat Party has a problem with men, as we know. And here's her plan. Listen.
And that's why I've been committed to expanding access to mental health services. Since I took office, we've funded the recruitment and retention of hundreds of mental health professionals statewide, making it easier and more affordable to access care. We protected access to Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act, expanded on-campus mental health resources so our students have the services they need at school, and I've signed new laws to ensure patients accessing mental health and substance abuse care get equal insurance coverage. But we're not stopping there. I've also worked hard to make sure men have the support they need to make it here in Michigan. This year, I signed an executive directive instructing Michigan departments who run our higher education and skills programs to make an active effort to reach more young men. By making sure young men can afford an education, we're putting more Michiganders on track to thriving instead of just surviving. So, this Men's Health Week, let's make sure to put ourselves first and ask for help when you need it. We've got your back.
Yeah, men, you're crazy. Does she really think that saying, we've got more mental health facilities, vote for me, man. I'll have a place in the mental hospital for you. We'll have more drugs available, more psychiatrists, more therapists, more psychiatrists. Men, vote for Democrats. We'll give you more mental help. You're the ones making us crazy, for God's sake, Governor. You're the ones that are making us nuts. What we need, less Democrats, more conservatives, less mental illness. There's vote red, baby, vote red. I'll be right back. Free for All Friday.
Time is our most precious.
He's learning, folks. My little boy is growing up.
Oh, I've been learned.
Hey! Anthony said, do not lean forward. Don't do that, he said. Okay, I won't do that anymore. I promise. Here's Brock Palmbush with sports.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. Leon Draisaitl scored at 11:18 of overtime to give the Edmonton Oilers a 5-4 victory over the Florida Panthers and take Game 4 of the NHL Stanley Cup Final last night in South Florida. Draisaitl's 11th goal of the playoffs tie the Stanley Cup Final at 2 games apiece. Game 5 is tomorrow night in Edmonton. J.J. Spawn shot a bogey-free 66 to take the first-round lead at the U.S. Open Golf Championship at Oakmont Country Club in Oakmont, Pennsylvania yesterday. He's 1 shot in front of Tristan Lawrence of South Africa. 3 others are 2 shots back. World number 1 Scotty Scheffler shot a 3 over par 73, and world number 2 Rory McIlroy shot a 4 over par 74. Round 2 begins this morning in Oakmont. Just 8 games in Major League Baseball yesterday. Winners included Detroit, Texas, Milwaukee, and Colorado. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
All right, Brock, thank you for that. This part of the company brought to you by the Wellness Company. Did you know that 60 million Americans have a problem with parasites and most of them don't even know it? It's true. Parasites. Brain fog, fatigue, just feel run down all the time. Parasites. Yeah. Do you eat raw fish, sushi? Have dogs and cats around? You could easily have parasites. I've just completed the ivermectin mebendazole cleanse from the Wellness Company. I feel great. And it was so easy. You can get this right now, by the way. You can save $60, free shipping right to your house for a 21-day supply of ivermectin mebendazole. It is the hottest thing going at the Wellness Company. They've got all sorts of supplements. They've got, the spike protein formula if you had COVID or you got the vaccine and you're figuring out how to get rid of that spike protein. Well, they've got that. But the hottest thing right now is this parasite cleanse. I'm telling you, go to twc.health/Gruber, find out more. You'll be glad you did. If you're sitting there going, man, is that the answer they've missing this whole time? twc.health/Gruber. It is the Wellness Company, your sponsor for this Free for All Friday hour. By the way, those phone lines are still open, 877-310-9966. If you'd like to share your thoughts right here with me, you can do it in about 5 minutes, 877-310-9966. I'll be right back on the Steve Gruber Show on a Free for All Friday. All righty. Can you believe it? It's another Free for All Friday. Can you believe I'm back in Washington, D.C.? Here I am. Here we are doing another Free for All Friday, Washington, D.C., fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom here in the studios of Real America's Voice and John Solomon here, which we greatly appreciate. Three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, the rioting in Los Angeles, the upheaval continued last night, but at a lower level. Maybe the curfews are working, and I guarantee you the National Guard is working. Number two, speaking of the National Guard, a federal district judge said that Donald Trump couldn't have the National Guard. He had to give it back. Well, then the Court of Appeals, Ninth Circuit, said no, he doesn't. And so that'll be in court for the next few days. Remarkable, isn't it? And number three, it's the Israeli attack on Iran that's top of mind for a lot of folks here. No question. Israel went after Iran, large-scale attacks, vicious attacks on the nuclear facilities. If you're unaware of that, the nuclear facilities hit at least three of the Israeli top leaders killed. You know. Let's see. Marina Lindsay, did you put this up, Anthony?
Yeah.
Interesting. We can do that.
Yeah.
Look what Anthony did here. Over here.
Yeah.
Look what Anthony did.
It's just harder for you. It's harder
for me to see, but I can read it. Marina Lindsay, I'm worried about the Israel strike in Iran. Do you think it's going to start World War III? No, I don't. I think actually, Iran is hated in the Middle East. It's going to trigger some action in this country. Islamic terrorists in this country could be on the loose. Could be on the loose as soon as tomorrow at all these big gatherings and protests. Do that again, Anthony. I want to see you do that again. There it is. No. Give me a new one. I've already seen this one. Let's see here. Troy says, good morning, Steve. Good morning, Troy. How are you? I like this, Anthony. Maybe if I had a little contrast, it would be just because on this sky here. That one I can't read. Too small. Jeremy, I can see Jeremy wrote some stuff, but yeah, see, because it's getting lost there. Okay, now it's getting bigger. I'm almost blind. Interesting on the live feeds here. Obviously, we need more mental health because they're voting Democrat. Well said, Jeremy. He's talking about Governor Whitmer. All right, so enough of that. That's good stuff, good fun stuff. We're refining the product for you every single day as we're rolling out across the country, expanding our reach. Now in places like Maine and New Hampshire, outlets in Texas. Of course, the television and the feeds are national and international, so we appreciate your support. What do you really think about the strikes from Israel on Iran? Well, Iran was never going to be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. And just last night, Donald Trump said, by the way, I don't want to say imminent, but it looks like something could very well happen. Look, it's very simple, not complicated. Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. He said that last night at the picnic. And then a few hours later, boom, he knew. As I just shared with you, I was supposed to be in Paris today, because every year in Paris, the Iranian government in exile holds a conference. I was going there to cover it for Real America's Voice and for MTN Networks, the networks that I own. And Ivy owns. I don't want to, Ivy owns as well. And a week ago, I guess, they called and said, look, they've been postponed. I'm sorry about any inconvenience, but the trip to Paris is being postponed to September. Makes you think they knew something was happening. It makes you think they had a bit of inside information. That's what I think, anyhow. All right, Free for All Friday. Let's continue with a couple of things. Let's talk about, and we'll keep an eye on what's happening in Iran right now. It looks like they've been devastated. 3 of their top military advisors and generals dead today. They'll not be on the battlefield. Iran at the weakest point, the regime at the weakest point it's been since 1979 is a chance for the Iranian people finally to maybe get their freedom back and have Iran re-enter polite society, if you will, become a part of the nation, become a nation that is not a state sponsor of terrorism. How about that? How about that? All right, let's go to bite number 4. We're going to stay with Los Angeles for a little bit, for a moment here. Los Angeles. Senator Kennedy, John Kennedy of Louisiana, love him. Funniest guy in Congress, by far, bar none. Not being funny here, says you have to prosecute the criminals that are rioting in the streets of America's cities. Here he is.
You can't just let these folks go. They've got to be prosecuted. And, what you allow is what will continue. Honestly, to me, this is not a complicated situation. It's about law and it's about order. You either support law and order and justice, because without order there is no justice, or you support the wolves. I'm on the side of justice.
Yeah, he's on the side of justice, as am I. Yeah. By the way, I'm just looking at the latest Operation Rising Lion, apparently is what this thing was called. New headline out from Israel. And they've fended off a retaliatory barrage of drones, apparently. I mean, this is all happening pretty fast. Israel has taken out the heart of Iran's nuclear program in Natanz, the facility strike there. So we've got a lot going on, and we're trying to keep up with everything. Iran has produced enough highly enriched uranium for 9 atom bombs, 9, said Netanyahu. In recent months, Iran is taking steps that it has never taken before, steps to weaponize this enriched uranium, and that's why the strike happened. Very predictable. It was not going to be allowed. That's it. It was not going to be allowed. All right, we're going to keep with this story, and we're going to stay with Los Angeles. Like I have told you earlier today, the IRS on its way to Los Angeles. Why? These people are too well funded. Too well funded for it to be a coincidence. And what I mean by that is the IRS is coming to figure out where the money's coming from to pay the rioters. To pay the rioters. Here's a comment. Bite number 5. Roll it.
With their leadership, and we also have the IRS here that's helping us track how these violent protesters are funded, what NGOs out there, what unions, what other individuals may be funding these violent perpetuators that are in these protests that take people who may be wanting to come and be peaceful, but instead turn these into very violent activities that go after law enforcement. That's just simply not acceptable. And I also,
by the way, that's the same hearing that the senator from California, Alex Padilla, came in screaming and carrying on and was pushed out by security and handcuffed because of his obnoxious, threatening behavior. They didn't know who he was. Here's the Secretary of Homeland Security being, yelled at by a guy who's coming in, and as they're pushing him back, he's struggling with them, fighting with them. I'm sorry, that gets you handcuffed. I don't care who you are. You don't get to come in and behave that way. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Yeah. Back to it here. I've got the smartest, best looking lawyer in all of America. Now, I'm sitting here in Washington, D.C., and I see a lot of lawyers. And I can tell you that this next guest, he's smarter, he's intellectually superior, he's physically superior. He's just a specimen. Steve Doolin, here he is, everybody. Doolin, welcome back to the program.
That's me. Thanks,
Yeah,
Gruber. I don't think my head can fit in the shot anymore.
Well, it's all good. Professor, I got to ask you this again because it happened again last night. You can disagree that Donald Trump should be able to federalize the National Guard. But I remember stories of the Little Rock Nine, for example, 1957, reading my history books, that Dwight David Eisenhower, the president, the 34th president of these United States, said, hey, Mr. Governor of Arkansas, I'm going to take the National Guard away from you that you're surrounding Little Rock High School with. I'm going to federalize that National Guard, and we are going to desegregate that school with these 9 black children, the Little Rock Nine, right? Yep. So this is not unprecedented. The National Guard was also used in 1992. It was used, I believe, in the riots of 1967 and 68. They were federalized to defend different, including the city of Detroit, not far from where you live. But somehow Donald Trump does it. It's unprecedented. It's over. So a federal district judge last night, maybe you saw this, maybe you didn't, said Donald Trump has to return the National Guard to the control of the governor of California. This happened last night. And then the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals said, yeah, actually he doesn't. We'll have some hearings over the next few days. I mean, these federal district courts is what I'm getting at. These people are way out of control. This is not the way it's supposed to work. A federal district judge in a district in Louisiana or California or even Michigan, wherever, it's a local judge, isn't it? You control this federal district. You can issue an injunction for this federal district, but you can't make it unilateral for the country. And that's where this has got to be fixed.
Well, that is how it has worked up till recently. Right. For the most part, and Congress can fix it. Congress can. These courts were created by Congress, and the only one created by the Constitution is the U.S. Supreme Court. And the idea is that you can't have these poor 9 justices at the U.S. Supreme Court handling every case in the country. So Congress created this system of districts and circuits, and the Supreme Court is only supposed to handle the really, really important ones. And they even get to decide which ones they take. But Congress ultimately can set some more rules here regarding what the districts can do. They could even just wipe out the district courts, but I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think that's going to happen. But here's the thing. You can't get this. I don't know that you, I mean, maybe you could. Maybe you could get it through the House. I mean, yesterday, getting rid of $9 billion in garbage spending barely got through 214, 212, right? So maybe get it through. Maybe get it through the Senate, but probably not because they'd filibuster. Those Democrats say, no. We have to restrain this president. Of course, if it was a Democrat president, they'd have a totally different point of view. It's all politics. Everything is politicized and weaponized. Yeah. And that's the key. It's not just politicized, it's weaponized, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, this is exactly why George Washington warned of the dangers of faction. He was very concerned that the loyalty would be to the party and not to the country, that the struggle for power and the desire for the power and the glory would overtake an individual's loyalty. And it certainly happened. His dire predictions have certainly come true. And this is, we're acting like our Congress is acting exactly like some of the stories from history from the Greeks and the Romans. And, our founders had read that history and knew it very well, better than I do, certainly. And they understood that the natural human tendency is to seek power and glory, feed our egos, and that's what these folks are doing. They have a team, and they're more concerned about their team than they are about the success of the country. You and I don't matter to them. What matters is right at all. And that's obvious. That's obvious to a child in some instances.
And I don't know if we matter at all to either side most days. I mean, one side seems to be a hell of a lot less concerned because I wear a red hat or whatever. And what about this other stunt yesterday? I don't know if you saw this. Senator Padilla of California comes ramming into this hearing with Kristi Noem, making this big scene, and they don't know who he is. And he comes in and he's bulleting his way in, and the security's trying to hold him back. He's trying to fight his way through. It's all made for TV. And he gets taken out, he's handcuffed. Of course he's taken out and handcuffed. You just threatened the Secretary of Homeland Security. What did you think was going to happen? Because you're a senator, you can just come in and rush the podium? I mean, this is such garbage, isn't it?
Yeah, I was on an elevator with Pat Buchanan back when he was a candidate. He was a presidential candidate. I don't know if you remember that
right.
era. But
1996.
So I'm on this elevator. It's two Secret Service agents and Pat Buchanan and I. And I got kind of excited. I was a younger guy then. I said, Mr. Buchanan, but I said it kind of loudly because I was excited. And so the two Secret Service guys moved to block. One had his hand under his coat. The other one put his hand on my chest just because I said Mr. Buchanan a little loudly. Security is a real thing. And he was moving aggressively and loudly. And like you said, how are these guys supposed to know who he is?
Right. And when they tried to say, hey, stop, he kept trying to push his way through like he was a linebacker or a fullback. I mean, no, dude.
Well, I've seen videos of my clients who are charged with resisting arrest who did far less than he did.
Exactly. All right, Doolin, we got to leave it there. The most accomplished lawyer in the history of the world, Steve Doolin, everybody. There he is. Don't spit your coffee out. Don't do that. Greatly appreciate you, Doolin. Have a great weekend, my friend.
Thanks, Gruber. You too.
There you have it. Super Doolin. They should have like a chest with a D on it, Anyhow, we'll take a break. It's the Steve Gruber Show. It is Free for All Friday. I'll be right back. To me, it looks like one political stunt after another. That's what Democrats have right now. Political stunts. Whether it's Gavin Newsom in California or, again, if you didn't see this, California Senator Alex Padilla basically trying to bum rush the podium as the Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, was up there talking in Los Angeles about the IRS coming in and different things and different steps they're taking, because one of the things they want to figure out is where the money's coming from to fund all of these violent riots. Let's just call them, they're riots. And it might only be in a square mile or two in California, but the destruction is real. The threats to police are real. I mean, how many police cars get smashed and burned before people say, wait a second, we got to buy more of those? Yeah, because your buddies and your neighbors here, or maybe they're not your neighbors. Maybe they got on a Greyhound bus and got shipped in by somebody because they had a checkbook. That happens. Anyhow, so Alex Padilla comes trying to rush in. I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the Secretary. Look, he was told repeatedly to back away. He did not comply with security and officers at the room. And the Secret Service thought he was an attacker, and they acted appropriately. They didn't know who the hell he was. I mean, here you're seeing it. For those of you on the stream, this is when he gets let out. But There he is, he's trying to push and rush his way through. I mean, what did he expect was going to happen? It's all political theater. And then he gets pushed out of the room and handcuffed, pushed to the floor and handcuffed because you're an aggressive individual. By the way, here's the part they're not telling you on the left. Secretary Noem met with Senator Padilla afterwards, held a 15-minute meeting with him. A 15-minute meeting. They didn't tell you that part, did they? No, of course not. This nonsense has to stop. This is all theater. The Democrats have little left. I'm going to ask this from my next guest. Michael Whatley, chair of the Republican National Committee, is with me up next. Right here on the Steve Gruber Show. Glad to have you here. Find out more at stevegruber.com. Remember, I'm looking for new followers today on X, Facebook. We're live on YouTube, of course. We're live on Facebook. We're live on Rumble. We're live on X. We're live nationwide and around the world. And growing every day thanks to you. Say that again?
Live on Getter, too.
And Getter, too. So we got something for everybody here. We'll be right back. Well, here we go, continuing on a Friday. Now, despite dishonest numbers from pollsters and political stunts, Donald Trump remains popular. How do I know? Because Mark Mitchell over at Rasmussen, the most accurate pollster in the fall 2024, who called the race all the way through, 2 points for Trump, 2 points for Trump. Trump wins by about 2 points. He says today, Donald Trump's +6. +6. So all this political theater and the riots in Los Angeles and this stunt by Padilla yesterday, this doesn't help the Democrats. Nobody knows what they stand for. Republicans stand for lower taxes, secure borders, a future for our kids. Here with me now, Michael Whatley, the chair of the Republican National Committee, to take a closer look. Michael, nice to see you again.
It's good to be on with you, sir.
Greatly appreciate it. Look, this stunt by Padilla yesterday is about as egregious as I've seen. I mean, he comes in there, tries to rush the podium, and then, does it. It's a stunt for the cameras. But none of this is working. Look, I can read polls as well as anybody. I can see these bogus polls. Oh, Donald Trump's 10 points in the hole. No, he's not. Look, I live in the real world. I am yet to meet the person that voted for Donald Trump who says, I'm really disappointed. I wish I'd voted for Kamala Harris. I've never met that person. Maybe they exist, and they tell me they do, but I've not found one living in the wild. Where are we today as we head toward the midterms?
Well, simply put, President Trump is keeping the promises that he made during the campaign. He campaigned on having a strong economy, strong borders in a strong country. That's exactly what is being put together right now by his administration, starting with the cabinet, starting with the White House staff. Every action that he is taking, every executive order that he has put out is fulfilling the promises to the American people that he made during that campaign. The Democrats on the other side have continued to double down on their same failed policy agenda, which is open borders, inflationary spending, and a weak America. So, yeah, we're not surprised to see that the Democrats are mired around 20% approval rating and that Donald Trump is over 50%, historic highs, and Republicans are getting their job done both from the administration and in Congress.
Very close in Congress on any given day. Yesterday, 4 Republicans voted no on the first rescissions bill, but it got through, so we'll just leave it there. We understand some of those folks are in complicated districts, shall we say, in New York and elsewhere. But as you look at the economy, inflation is 2.4%. The jobs numbers have outperformed several months in a row now. The GDP looks like it's going to be at 4%. And when you look at the midterms, which I can't believe they're that close already, but when you look at the midterms, nothing drives people to vote more than the economy, does it?
No, you nailed it, right? This midterm election cycle is going to focus on agenda, whether or not the Republicans are actually able to fulfill the agenda that they were given a mandate to that they campaigned on back in 2024. And right now, President Trump is fulfilling that agenda. Congress needs to finish the bill, needs to move forward with the rescissions package. But when they do, and we see the economy rolling, we see the southern border has been sealed off. Immigration numbers right now, 1% of what they used to be under Joe Biden, and a strong standing in the world. That's the path that Republicans need to tread to win this election cycle.
Yeah, here's another number I saw. You probably saw this as well a couple of days ago over on CNN, Chicken Noodle News, as I love to call them. Harry Etten had numbers that were this. In 2020, legal immigrants into America, legal immigrants, people that went through the process, got vetted, background check, and became legal citizens, the Democrats had a 32-point advantage among legal immigrants. Today, it's Republicans +8. It's a 40-point swing, Michael. And nobody knows more about the immigration situation in America than those that came here illegally. And they reject automatically out of hand what the Democrats have done. I think that's a very telling number.
I could not agree more, and then you see what the Democrats are doing in Los Angeles and around the country, with the protests and the riots over ICE actually enforcing the law. And right now, we're seeing every single day the president is going up on his handling of immigration. Democrats are going down, and we're seeing the Democratic leadership out there defending their policies. The riots that we see in Los Angeles right now are the culmination of Democrats' policies when it comes to immigration. This is not what the American people voted for. It's not what they support. And they're going to punish the Democrats at the polls this fall if the Democrats don't see the light and start enforcing the laws and protecting their communities.
I mean, how embarrassing. I'm gonna cite this from ABC News. I couldn't believe I heard this earlier this week. One of the correspondents from ABC News in Los Angeles says, they're not rioting here. They're just some people having fun watching cars burn. Legitimately said on ABC News, and you just sit there and you go, what? What did they just say? Just people having fun watching cars burn. I guess as long as it's not their car, they're okay with it. How bizarre is that?
Yeah, the riots are mostly peaceful. You know, it is absolutely stunning. And now we're seeing that the Democratic Party is doing everything they can to push them beyond LA. So we're going to see them in Chicago. We're going to see them in New York. We're going to see them in Detroit, I assume. We'll see them in Lansing. You know, that all across the country, the Democrats are doing what they can to try and push the narrative that there is chaos across the country. The fact is, these are well organized, well funded protests that are coming from the left to try and disrupt the agenda that Donald Trump and the Republicans are pushing. The American people don't want chaos. The American people want safe communities. They want their kids to be able to go to school and get an education instead of woke ideology indoctrination, right? So every single time we see an 80-20 issue, the Democrats are reflexively going to the 20% side and doubling down on stupid. They learned absolutely no lessons from their losses in 2024. They're going right back to that same failed playbook. And you look at Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and Jasmine Crockett, AOC, and the rest of the Democratic leadership team, it's a jailbreak to the left. The American people are not going to follow them.
You know, and I think you're exactly right about that. I mean, you look at the polls. I mean, I can see garbage polls the same as you can, but I trust what Mark Mitchell's done at Rasmussen and some others out there, Rich Barris and others have good polls that stood up and stood the test of time. But you couldn't ask from your side of the street. And look, I wish California would take care of itself and figure out its problems. But from where Republicans stand, what they're doing there and what Padilla did yesterday, that's the best advertisement for vote Republican. If you don't want chaos like this, because Padilla will come in and rush the podium and then say, well, Donald Trump's creating chaos. No, he's not. And people are smart enough to see it for themselves that he's trying to seal the border, trying to improve the economy, trying to stop the war in Ukraine, trying to make sure that what happens in Iran overnight doesn't turn into a wider regional conflict. That's what Donald Trump does every day. I'll give you the last word.
Well, look, I think that as long as Republicans are going to continue to focus on our families and our communities, they're going to be able to go up in the polls. We're going to have a chance to be able to hold our own and expand our majorities in the House and the Senate. You know, but this is a much bigger deal than just politics, right? My lane is winning elections, but the fact is you win elections in order to have people making decisions for our families and for our communities. Donald Trump and the Republicans right now are fighting every single day for every community across the country. That's what we voted for, and that really, truly is why we do what we do.
Michael Watley, Chair of the RNC, greatly appreciate you being here as always. I am in Washington today, and I'll be over to the parade tomorrow. We'll see how they on the other side handle that part of it. Good talking to you. Look forward to talking to you again soon, sir. Thank you.
I'll see you over at the parade. Take care, sir.
All right, Michael Watley, everybody. I guess we'll be at the parade together right here in Washington, D.C. I'll be over at the White House a little bit later. We'll continue with Free for All Friday. By the way, if you want to get on the line, 877-310-9966. That is the Patriot Mobile Common Sense Hotline. Your chance to weigh in right now on a Free for All Friday. I'll be right back. All right, welcome back to it, a free-for-all Friday. I'm in Washington, D.C., as you know, a special edition of the program. Or is it that special? I mean, I come here all the time. Is that special anymore? I don't know. But I'm here. I'll be down at the parade tomorrow. I'll be covering it on Real America's Voice, so you can catch me there. The special starts at 4 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow. We'll cover the events leading up to the parade. We'll have updates from all over the country as far as the chaos that could be unleashed on America tomorrow and the No Kings protests. It could turn into violent riots, and I'm going to guess that that's going to happen in some places. As these performative stunts from the left continue and continue to get funded by people on the left, like we were talking about earlier. Now, in all the noise, you miss important things. Here's an important development from yesterday that you probably haven't heard about because I haven't told you about it yet. And if you weren't paying close attention, you would have missed this. But Donald Trump issued an initiative that will shut down California's left-wing rules to make California only allowed to sell electric vehicles in 10 years in 2035. President Trump signed a trio of congressional resolutions ending California's restrictive rules for diesel and mandates on electric vehicle sales, with Trump celebrating that his signature will kill the California mandates forever. You see, California's trying to tell people you could only buy an EV by 2035. They don't have the infrastructure for it. They don't have an ability to, first, they don't have the electrical grid for it. They don't have charging stations for it. EVs are far more expensive. They're telling, families, no matter what your income level, you must have an EV. I can't afford an EV. Well, too bad. Then I guess you walk. And I think that might have been the point. You see, you just take away the freedom of movement. Under the previous administration, Trump said, the federal government gave left-wing radicals in California dictatorial powers to control the future of the entire car industry all over the country and all over the world, actually. They approved Governor Gavin Newsom's ridiculous plan to impose a 100% ban on all new gas-powered cars within a very short period of time. Think of this. You can't buy any other car except an electric-powered car. And in California, they have blackouts and brownouts. They don't have enough electricity right now. He is exactly right. By the way, if you've been paying attention before this, General Motors scaled back its $300 million investment and put several billion dollars, $4 billion, I believe the number was, into developing new gas and diesel engines. General Motors also saw the writing on the wall. EVs are a financial disaster for them. Now, look, if you want a Tesla, I'm all for it. I've been in Teslas here in D.C. I don't know, 1 car in 5 when you get an Uber. And you get around, I don't have a car here. It's much easier to travel with Uber. They come get you, and you don't have to rent a car and have to bring your own car and try to find a parking spot and all that nonsense. 1 car in 5 is a Tesla. I like them a lot. I mean, they are an AI masterpiece. You've got if you haven't been in one, they've got a big screen. The screen is huge, right? The digital display and the screen. And it shows you everything that's coming. It shows you the people, the cars, the intersections, the buildings, everything. It's brilliant. And it has this screen. It's probably got to be a 13, 14-inch screen in the front of the car. It's brilliant. I don't want one. I live out in the country, and I live in Michigan where it snows, it gets cold, and I have a house up north. It's a couple hundred miles away, and I don't want one. I don't want the pressure of being in a bad storm or a situation where I'm delayed because of weather or a car accident on the freeway, whatever it may be. If I've got to travel 300 miles or whatever it might be, I don't want to have the pressure of knowing that my car is going to run out of the ability to move. Who the hell wants that kind of pressure? I don't. I want a car that gets on down the highway. I've kind of become a fan of diesel, to be honest with you. I've got a brand new Kubota, by the way, from Williams out in Charlotte. What a great store this is, right? Stewart is the guy that owns this, Williams Farm Machinery, Charlotte, Michigan. They've got Kubotas. They're terrific. I've got a side-by-side Kubota. It's diesel, enclosed cab, heat, air, the whole 9 yards. It is a beast, and I got it from Stewart out there. I recommend that company highly. Anybody in southern Michigan, if you're looking for the best gear, whether it's Kubota, you need a new tractor, whatever it might be, that's the place to get it done. I think they have Massey Ferguson's, Massey's at tractors. I'm pretty sure. Anyhow, my recommendation is Williams Farm Equipment. What a great place. Anyhow, back to California here. So this deal in California would have required EVs only by 2035. And what Donald Trump did was end a waiver issued by the Biden EPA that mandated at least 80% of vehicles being used in California had to be EVs. Not just 100% of those being sold and 80% of those being used. They also ended a Biden era EPA approval of a plan to increase the number of zero emission heavy duty trucks in California, which, by the way, are a complete failure. Here's the thing, all of this zero emission nonsense, and let me just give you a fact, right? America is the only nation on earth of significance whose greenhouse gas numbers have gone down over the last 25 years, and they've gone down dramatically. Everything we do here, closing coal-fired power plants, making our emissions less and less, cleaning up the exhaust, coming out of the vehicles that do run diesel and gas, and so on and so forth. Every bit of that, every single bit of that has been offset completely by India and China. China's building a new coal-fired power plant, 1 or 2 a week, not just in China, but all over the world, most of which they're not even putting into use. They're building them and setting them there for future reference. Think about that. They must have something in mind that the world's going to need power in the future, and they're going to have it in spades while we're over here with windmills and solar panels and retards that are saying, oh, can you say that on the radio? Retard? And retards over here telling us to close all of our power plants and ride bicycles and have windmills. No, Donald Trump did the right thing here. Absolutely the right thing. Get rid of these ridiculous EV mandates. Kill the Green New Deal before it kills us. We got a lot of things to worry about. The lights going on should not be one of them. Period. I'll take a break, have some final thoughts on this Free for All Friday right after this. I've got the definition here. I'm a free speech guy. You don't like certain words, well, then get them out of the dictionary. Whatever. Delay or hold back in terms of progress, development, or accomplishment. That's one. This is from Webster's, I believe. Let's see. Less advanced in mental, physical, or social development than is usual for one's age. I think that's a fair assessment of what I was saying. I think that's fair. By the way, this part of the program brought to you by my good friends at My Pure Health, a partner at this show for 10 years. 10 years. Yeah, My Pure Health. Look, you can get a shot in your leg once a month for the rest of your life to lose weight, or you can do it the right way with my friends over at My Pure Health. Yeah, they'll figure out what's going on with your body, a custom plan for you. Figure out the frequencies of your body. Figure out what's going on. Frequencies, like Tesla would figure out. He'd figure out how to run your body, not by getting on pharmaceuticals for the rest of your life. No, get real health with My Pure Health is what I would say. Real health, My Pure Health, and they'll help you lose weight. I did it in 2018. Look at me. I feel great. 2018 I did it, and they've been a partner for a long time. Give Missy a call over there and her great team, Missy, Charity, all of them. They do wonderful work. You don't have to be on some powerful pharmaceutical for the rest of your life. You just get your body figured out, figure out what your trigger foods are, get your frequencies dialed in, get the right supplements, and away you go to a better, healthier you. GruberHealth.com. You can find out more. GruberHealth.com. All right, big day tomorrow, the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Army Parade on Flag Day. Oh, and it's Donald Trump's 79th birthday. There is that. There you have it. All right. Fight the good fight, my friends. Keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. This is the Steve Gruber Show. And remember, only you can save America.